So this channel has been a very long time coming. It's just I had so much on my plate that I genuinely didn't have time to create any content. I started at my job basically 3 days after submitting my dissertation, moved to Cambridge, and I'm literally living the time of my life. I work as a data engineer at this audio machine learning company. It's basically a crossover between audio engineering and software engineering. So we collect data and prepare it for the machine learning team.
Now you might be thinking, that's cool and all, but who is this guy? My name is Marcel, I'm 25 years old. I used to be obese and minus 40 kilos later, I no longer am. That's all you need to know for now.
But yeah, let's get back to the main topic of this video, which is the first stage of my fitness lifestyle change journey thing. I've been overweight or even obese basically most of my life. I used to swim, I used to play basketball, I did some karate, I did some Brazilian jiu-jitsu, I did some working out in the gym with personal trainers and stuff like that, but I never really saw any results. Obviously no fat person wants to be fat, but you have all these diets out there all claiming to be the best diet, and they usually lead to disappointment because your diet ends. You go back to eating like shit, which leads to gaining back all the weight that you lost and maybe even more. You don't want a diet that you do for X amount of weeks. You want a diet that you can stick to, ideally until you die or something. So I've had all these failed attempts. What made me succeed this time? Most people think it was because of my breakup, and obviously it played a role in it. Like, you look in the mirror and think, like, why would anyone want to be with this thing? I mean, my ex wanted to be with that thing, but you kind of realize that you are suddenly out on the market looking like absolute shit. So that was one thing, but obviously that was not the trigger. It was a video clip of Jordan Peterson discussing his all beef diet on Joe Rogan's podcast.
Then I lost 7 pounds the first month. Then I lost 7 pounds the next month. Then I lost 7 pounds the next month. I lost 7 pounds every month for 7 months. It's like I had to throw away all my clothes.
And it turned out he got the idea from his daughter, Michaela Peterson. Michaela's story sounded so crazy.
I know how it sounds. That's how it sounded to me too.
That I had to try it out for myself. So I think I watched the video on Friday maybe, and I decided to start the next Monday. So I spent the weekend researching, I did some shopping, and I started on Monday. I had a steak for breakfast, a steak for lunch, and a steak for dinner. The next day I had a steak for breakfast, a steak for lunch, and a steak for dinner. And yeah, I kind of realized that this was not sustainable in the long term, to be honest. At least not for me. There are people who have been doing this for years and they're fine. Obviously they eat something else, not just steak. But it was so difficult for me, emphasis on me. Like, you know, if it works for you, go for it, but it was not working for me. So I started looking into alternatives, and turns out that the carnivore diet is actually a more restrictive version of the keto diet that uses fats as the primary source of energy rather than carbs. Food can be split into 3 main categories. So we have protein, which is crucial for our body, for building muscle, etc. You want to make sure that you eat protein, enough protein, no matter what diet you are on. That is non-negotiable. But then you have carbs and fats, carbohydrates or fats. And whether you prefer carbs or fats or a mixture of the two is really up to you. So let's just think that our body is a fire. It is actually kind of like a fire, basically bioheater in a sense. And I like to think of carbohydrates as lighter fluid. You pour it on the fire, it generates a huge flame, which dies down very soon. On the contrary, you have fats, which are kind of like coal. So if you put it on the fire, it won't generate a huge flame, but it will last much longer. You can gain energy from either of the two or the combination of the two. And the ketogenic diet is based on fats. So you want to have basically all your energy from fats. Now you might wonder, wait, aren't fats bad for us? Like, you have all these fat-free products claiming to be healthy. What is going on? Yes, about that.
Interesting thing is always going into the stores and seeing all these like low fat, you know, healthy stuff. And this diet is literally about fat. You eat mostly fat and basically no carbs and still losing weight.
For some reason, fat is seen as the thing that makes us fat, and this couldn't be any more wrong. Fats do not make you fat. Eating too much food makes you fat. You could be eating the healthiest granola, whatever, avocado toast. You would gain weight given you were eating too much of these foods. It's not the fats that are bad, it's eating too much is what is bad. Transitioning to the keto diet can be difficult to some people. So there's this thing called the keto flu, which lasts around up to 2 weeks, maybe less. You basically feel very sluggish, you may have headaches, and it's really not great. But this is basically the transition period when your body is adjusting to this new form of energy source, because our body isn't really tuned for that. Not because there's anything wrong with fats, it's just that that's not how most people tend to eat, right? So you're not used to it. After I was over that, I was actually feeling pretty good. I have had mental clarity and my attention was much more focused. Before the keto diet, my mind would just like wander around and about. I had a lot of trouble focusing on writing essays or attending lectures because my mind would just like switch off and like go all over the place. When I was on the keto diet, I was much more goal oriented. Because fats are super satiating, I was basically never hungry.
When I ate my regular like carb heavy diet, I used to have these spikes in hunger. So it was like when I wake up, it's like crazy hunger, I have to like instantly eat something, then it's good for like 1 or 2 hours, then I need to eat again and repeat until I go to sleep. Sometimes I go to bed and I'm like, oh my god, I'm hungry, and it just goes on and on and on.
That kind of feeling, that I never had that on the keto diet. The way you would notice that you should eat was that you were kind of getting like mentally tired, not really hungry, it was more like a tired feeling. You were getting a bit like sluggish, fatigued. And one of the biggest issues for me was that on the keto diet, I was completely lacking the kind of pumpness to do exercise. And I think this is the biggest con. Most restaurants, most takeaway places, most supermarkets are simply not keto friendly. They do not have keto options. You have to go out of your way to be able to follow the diet. At this point, you might wonder, how much weight did you lose? What are the numbers? And the numbers are actually pretty impressive. So in the span of basically 2 months, a bit more than 2 months, I lost 10 kilos. I have to say that some of this must have been water weight, because this is basically more or less a zero carb diet, or like a super ultra fucking low carb diet. And when you are not eating enough carbs, your body will flush out water from its storages. So most of the initial weight loss that you experience is actually just water weight. Similarly, when you have like a massive meal that is carb based, or you're eating salty food, the weight you put on the next day is mostly water weight. So don't worry about it. If it ever happens, it's probably gonna go away in a few days. But still, 10 kilos, I was really impressed with it. That just does something to you. You're like, oh, okay, I can do this. You know, let's see how far we can push this. I really wasn't happy with how restrictive keto was, so I started exploring other options, and that is how I found out about the flexible dieting, or also known as the if it fits your macros diet. And that will be the topic for the next video. In the meantime, if you have any questions about the keto diet or anything else, really, leave a comment. If you found this insightful, or if you want to see more of these videos, any feedback is appreciated. And thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in my next video.